And that's literally lifting, that comic, that really got you right into it. I remember that so good. Because 20 years ago, we were trying to figure out how to do that. We were going to think helicopter thing, and nowadays it's all digital.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting because the trailer that probably got shown about an hour ago for the first time, the Comic-Con trailer for Watchmen. Yeah, so the Comic-Con trailer is going to show the stuff that really does line up with the graphic novel, but in the long run, you know, it has to satisfy a very broad scope of and particularly that film that has so many layers going on. And
well, you're so inventive with that stuff anyway. I mean, it's really extraordinary. Some of the Minority Report, I remember seeing some of the first sketches of that stuff, and that was extraordinary stuff. So, I mean, you do that really well. But that's what you have to do. You do have to take it, and you do have to change it a bit or whatever, and and you make it your own, or you make it the director's. Yeah.
What's your question? Yeah.
I was wondering, in your professional practice, I've noticed as a moviegoer and a designer, that there are some directors that have a very strong visual style and are very pictorially oriented, but there are other directors that are perhaps more strong with just directing characters and actors. What has been successful for you in dealing with directors that may not be pictorially sensitive, and can you maybe give us some examples of some key sets or visuals that you're particularly proud of that made it onto film because of your powers of persuasion?
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Well, yeah, you're right. Some directors are more visual than others, and it's actually surprising how non-visual actually some directors actually can be. They do need a lot of help from us, all the people that we work with. I started out as an illustrator actually years ago, so I did an awful lot of that work. Can you hear me? Okay, am I being loud enough? And you know, we would do big set sketches and all that, just to begin to explore what a sequence or what a scene would look like. And some directors have very specific ideas. And I mean, like a guy like Steven Spielberg, who I used to work with, was much more specific about what he wanted. Now, I don't know how he's been, like when you worked with him on, you know, stuff like Minority Report, we still did an awful lot of illustrating with him, an awful lot of designing, because he would say, well, I'm not quite sure what this looks like, but then other times he'd say, here's exactly what I want this to look like. This goes here, this goes here, this goes here. Other directors really, they're much more concerned with the narrative, with the actors, and they really don't really have that much of an idea, and they want you to help them, which is really what we're supposed to do anyway. We're really supposed to help them tell their story. Although I'm drawing a blank right now as to any specific. I think probably working on G.I. Joe is, you know, for me the most recent, where the director was just sort of, you know, making stuff up every day just because we were writing the movie, developing the movie, prepping the movie all at the same time. So we were doing an awful lot. I was doing an awful lot of drawing. Had a lot of really good illustrators working with me who were doing an awful lot of illustration to show every aspect of the movie, from all the vehicles to all the sets to effects, everything. And there was a tremendously, intensely short design curve and all that. Sometimes you have more time. It's nice when you have more time, but you don't always have more time. So yeah, you know, for me, a film like that probably was a good example. And then also trying to, going to the other question about trying to find what's the look of it as opposed to the earlier G.I. Joe look. So we had a lot more leeway. We were trying to bring it up into the 21st century. So that's that answer.
You know, I think this speaks to the idea that films are so collaborative. You're not going to get any of us to tell you, the directors we worked with who were idiots, that you could never get them. You might understand. One of the best directors, maybe Mike would. One of the best directors I ever worked with was hopeless. He not only couldn't read blueprints, he couldn't read sketches. He couldn't read snapshots. You know, I got an endoscopic lens, which is one of these extended medical things, so that he could look inside the sets. He used it to look at his sweater. You know, but he was a brilliant director. Once he was out on the set, he could do it, but he couldn't plan anything. Just to look at his sweater. You know, but he was a brilliant director. Once he was out on the set, he could do it, but he couldn't plan anything. So, well, look, I think that's just the nature of it.
It's not, I don't think it's a requirement for the director to be a strong visualist. I think that's exactly the reason that he hires a production designer. Steven Spielberg, I think, is a case in point because he is a storyteller. You know, he's absolutely clear about the function of all of our jobs, and he comes up in a very traditional way. He kind of comes from an old-fashioned TV studio sort of system where he has his job to do, we have our jobs to do, and he wants you to know the story well enough to provide him a framework that will allow the story to function, but he doesn't necessarily have a clear directive as to how it is. A very, very quick example, what the clip that was shown him from Minority Report, he wanted the prisoners who'd been caught by pre-crime to look as if they were below ground and it was a huge graveyard. And that was his start point. And then from that, we had to solve a problem as to how you reveal these people and how the story could grow from that. So the idea of tubes rising up out of the ground, but they all have these kind of gravestone markers on the top of them, is a kind of, you know, the way that you get to the collaborative, you know, visual and storytelling conclusion.
And then when they come out of the ground, he gets excited because he can move his camera around them and everything else. So he takes what we give them. If he fixates on one idea, they take that and then they make it better.
Yeah.
And that's what we're supposed to, that's what we do. And that's why they rely on us. And the notion that they're all great visualists